Hi, everyone, and welcome to Behind the Numbers. My name is Dave Bookbinder, and welcome back to the show where we dig deeper to understand what really matters most in business. Today, I am pleased to welcome Traycee Mayer, who is a certified executive coach and author of this book, The Leadership Contradiction, Choosing a Path of Love and Kindness. Traycee, welcome to Behind the Numbers. We absolutely do, but before we jump in, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about who you are? Well, it's one of my favorite topics, as you certainly well know. So let me start just by asking you straight out of the gate here, what is the leadership contradiction and what inspired you to write the book?
To be doing things differently, is giving like love and attention to the people that I led, and realized that the results that I was getting on the bottom line were far superior than some of my colleagues who didn't do it that way, who were the tough guys and who were unreachable by their staff. And of course, I've had those bosses too. In fact, one of my last bosses, was that way, where we just had this disconnect, and it's really hard to follow people, um, and have that respect. So all of this kind of came rolling forward during that pandemic we had, and I was out hiking my favorite canyon. At the time, I lived in Southern California, and it was about 3 years ago, I guess. And I was walking by myself. A lot of people were separating themselves from others, and I got real healthy during that time. But I also had this pivotal moment just one morning where I was kind of stopped in my tracks, literally, down deep in the canyon all by myself, and something just had me look backwards, kind of at where I had been, a bit of a kind of an analogy of my life, and the path that I had come down, and kind of look forward as well, and all the options I had. And I write this in the book that, and I was 55 at the time. I since have had several birthdays, but I realized that even though I thought that all my decisions had been made when I was younger, and it was just kind of life just kind of moving forward, that everything, was still ahead of me, and I still had all these amazing choices to make, and that I could also impact others. So I jotted down some notes during my hike, and didn't think of writing a book until a few years later when I mentioned it to someone, in some sort of a workshop, and they're like, "You have to write a book." And then it was funny how the universe takes over in succession. I met people, and then I met a publisher, and blah blah blah, and the rest is history, as they say. I wrote it in 9 months, and have some intentions of doing another, but it was really just my reflection on my experiences starting at a very young age in leadership, and realizing I had done things differently. Really paying
Yeah.
attention to the people I led, and earned that respect that it doesn't come naturally, and it doesn't come with a title. It comes with us really paying attention to the people that we hire, or that end up working for us. So yeah.
So much of that resonates, including the part where you say how the universe sort of conspires and takes over to put things together for you. I never intended to write a book. And
Right.
when the first book was evolving, unbeknownst to me, evolving into a book, people started to show up in my world too. And that's how I wound up collaborating with people that I did. But I want to talk to you about the title of the book in particular
Okay.
here. And I want to call out something that I want you to explain to the audience, because a lot of times when leaders think about the constructs of leadership, um, and you yourself even alluded to it, you could have said, you could have used the words respect, empathy, appreciation, a bunch of other words you could have used, but you chose the word love, which may have some controversy around it. So why don't you explain to the audience why you specifically chose that word for the title?
Yeah, absolutely. So it really was a different word when I was writing the book. It was humility. Humility and kindness. I felt that kindness was something important to me that I had recognized over the last couple of years, and how important it was during the pandemic and all that stuff for people to be kind. But the other word was humility, and there was almost there, for a while it was a word called like permission, to be kind, what have you. But then I thought, you know what, I'm going to just really call it what it is, which is love. It's human love. It's platonic love. It's that feeling when you get to work and you want to hug your coworker. You know, it's that thing that became a dirty word, over the years because people misused relationships at work. And obviously I don't get into that at all because we all know what that is. But I feel like we needed to come back and call it love and call it, that it is a respect. It's seeing, hearing, valuing other human beings. It's making that connection. All of that is part of love, and love is an action word. It's a verb. It's not like being in love with someone, like as in a spouse or a romantic relationship. It's just it's a very simple, basic human love. And as much time as we spend at work and how important our workplaces are, and the fact that we shouldn't be two different humans wherever we are, if we're at home or at work or at, this place or that, let's call it what it is. So, I really felt like I was home when I, chose the word love to be part of the subtitle.
Well, I want to give you a lot of credit for doing that. I think it's a bold move, and I think it's part of changing the whole conversation, if not the paradigm, in how you think about leadership and treating your people.
Thank you.
So props to you for that. So I want to explore now and how you bring this idea of love and kindness into the workplace. So I heard you talk about, it's about treating people basically as you would want to be treated yourself, and I advocate that all day long in what I talk about. And there's a boatload of data that talks about how people that lead with empathy get greater respect, greater engagement, greater retention. There's a whole host of positive aspects from that sort of thing. But using your word, how do we bring love and kindness into the workplace?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it has everything to do with the human connection. Some things that workplace folks can relate to easily is like that weekly one-on-one. You hear that you know well, when you're a leader and you lead people and you've got a senior leader, maybe a president of a company or CEO or what have you. We need this one-on-one time, and 9 times out of 10 it gets canceled, or it becomes unimportant because everybody's too busy. Um, but what I have found that it's probably one of the most important things that we can do to make that connection is find time, whether it's 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and it should be regularly, once a week or twice a month at the very least. But to spend some time with the people that we manage, and to find a way to really relate to them and connect to them. Another way to bring that to work is being aware of who we are as leaders. I think the ego gets in the way a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure I'm sure that I have been that way in the past, at different times. I'm okay about calling myself out because I'm not perfect either. But I have enjoyed and appreciated and remembered the times when I put the focus on the people that I lead. When I've taken the time to, look at who they are and make a difference in their lives. There have been a number of times, I've managed big facilities. I managed a convention center on the West Coast. I had 300 regular employees, and I purposefully did not wear my name badge when I walked around. That usually was a big thing for me, but I did this because they knew who I was. But the guests didn't need to know, because I didn't need to walk around with my ego. Because my purpose was not to walk around and look important. My purpose was to walk around and make sure my employees were all feeling awesome and feeling important. So it didn't matter what position they had, what title, whatever, what their rate of pay was. I made sure that I spent a few moments with them, and 30 seconds or 1 minute could make all the difference in somebody's day. The way they feel about their job, it could lift them up and say, whatever it is I'm doing, I'm contributing to the team. And, the senior leader just recognized that what I do is important. So it's a little bit of a long explanation, but it's probably something that I could talk for hours on, because there's so many things that you could do. But that's just a little bit of what I've found myself to do, and naturally. And so, the book and the last couple of years is just a reflection that I got to look back and go, wow, I kind of, I got to come by this somewhat naturally, and mostly naturally. And now I'm embracing it and saying everybody else can do it too. It's not that hard. And there's a lot of success attached to it too, financially and otherwise.
Yeah. And when you talk about appreciation, here's a little fun fact for you. There was an Intel study that was done not too long ago talking about the power of appreciation. And when employees were just given, whether it was an email or just a quick pat on the back verbally, so to speak, production in facility increased by 6% just by virtue of showing appreciation. So that definitely is powerful in the concepts of leadership. But let me ask you this part. This is the difficult part in my mind. Bringing kindness into difficult situations and difficult conversations. If a company is going through a situation where maybe they're struggling and there's going to be downsizing, maybe there's relocations, maybe something that is not a positive message that's got to be conveyed. Could be even in a performance appraisal for an employee. How do you bring love into the difficult conversations?
Yeah, it's actually not that hard. It's being respectful. It's being professional, appropriate. It's not crushing the person's spirit in the process of giving them a negative evaluation or having to lay someone off. It's remembering that you're talking to a human being, someone that's got family, that has worked hard for you, whether or not they've done it well or whether or not they're going to continue to do it because of a downsizing. Being loving and being kind, or loving kindness, there's a lot of different ways people say it. It's just being a good person. It's being a good human. And I've done thousands of evaluations. Most of them haven't been really well, because I'm known as a kind of a how did one of my executive HR person said, I'm like a velvet glove over an iron fist, so I do run businesses in a very strong way. I have my bottom lines. There's reasons people have hired me to be a leadership, and it's always related to what kind, how much money I'm making the company and that I'm making it profitable. But there's a way to keep things in line and, keep people doing the job in a way that they can be successful, but also being kind. And quite often it's that kindness and that human love that will probably get you there faster, and actually make you more success. When people feel cared for, they feel respected, they're they're going to exponentially go towards being as successful as they can be, and of course in turn then the company becomes successful too. So the same thing goes for whether or not you're giving them a review or you're actually saying you need to lay them off. How does a person talk about a company when they get laid off because they've just been mistreated and kind of just pushed away, or were they treated well during a difficult conversation? They're going to say, I know they didn't have to do it, but they were really kind when they did it. I mean, there is such a huge difference. It's night and day between how we are as leaders towards the people that we lead. And remember too, and I know you know this, Dave, it applies to our home life. It applies to community groups that we belong to. It applies to our neighbors. It's everything. And we have gotten so far away from that and forgotten that just pure human kindness and loving kindness is just the way that we were designed.
Yeah, for sure. And you and I spoke when we did our prep call. I mentioned to you a CEO of Ashley Stewart by the name of James Rhee, who wrote a book called The Red Helicopter. Mm-hmm. And it's the story of how he brought kindness and math into turning around a struggling business. And powerful story. And what your message here is certainly powerful and important. Diving into the book a little bit, mm-hmm. I know that you say that employees should not be treated fairly. Life isn't fair.
Yeah.
I want you to expound on that.
Yeah. And that one always gets a lot of eyebrows raised. So I'm not talking about, HR related stuff at work. I mean, everybody should have, appropriate, benefits and the, DEI, I absolutely support that and believe in it, that everybody should be included and should be treated fairly. So in that way. What I'm talking about is treating people the same as in, this one thing that really irritates me is when maybe somebody on a team is not performing well, and your boss drags the whole group, the whole senior leader team or the whole sales team or the whole operations team or whatever, drags everybody into a room and says, hey, this isn't working, blah, blah, blah. Well, and it's really just about one person's having some performance issues because they don't have the guts to have a private conversation with them. So then what happens is the whole team feels down. For someone like me, it was always like, what did I felt down. Maybe usually I wasn't the one that was not performing. I was the one who was the super performer, but they just knocked me down a couple notches because I was made to feel like we're all not performing. So, the important thing is to really look at what needs to happen within a group of people and how we can. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought for a moment, to be quite honest. But to go back and take that time to talk to that one person who needs to make an improvement, and also lift the whole team up, and don't be afraid to point out one area that needs to be improved. Fair treating people fairly is treating them differently and uniquely, right? That's how I believe fair is. I had a boss one time say, treat them fairly. Yeah, if the team isn't doing well, call them all in and, reprimand the whole team because they all got to get together to make it work. And I'm like, I feel like that's less than what we owe them. We owe them respect as individuals. So what I mean, the long way of saying how to treat people fairly is to treat them uniquely. That being fair is learning who the person is and figuring out what's different about them and how you can help raise their skills that are inherent. We all have them.
Yeah. Traycee, we spent a lot of time talking about how to be kind to others, but you also talk about being kind to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually just answered an email somebody sent me yesterday that somebody I didn't know, but yeah, it was about taking time to be kind, and I do write about that in the book as well. About I have this thing called P.S. I Love You, and I live in the Midwest now, but I used to live in Southern California, and I would P.S. stood for Palm Springs. So I would make sure that 2 to 3 times a year I would do I would just write it on my calendar, P.S. I love you. And that meant I was going to take off a Monday. It was usually a random day. It wasn't like on a weekend when there's a million people. And it wasn't on a day where my team would need me. It might be just kind of a quiet time. And I would take off in the morning by myself, make a reservation at a gorgeous hotel, and do some little fun things along the way, do some shopping, have a nice lunch, just treat myself really, really well. I'm a sun girl, so I, want to be by the pool and just that and talk to random strangers. But more than anything, just really give myself some TLC, maybe a massage is in order or what have you. But usually it's just the fact of going, I'm taking the day off and I don't have to talk to anybody or be responsible for anything today. I'm just going to spoil myself. And of course, having been in the hotel business for 25 years, the hotels usually spoiled me even more with upgrading me to a suite or something like that, which I always appreciated and enjoyed. And so, yeah, that's what I would do. And then I might go pick out something special, whether it's just something. I wouldn't even describe it because it doesn't matter. It's a trinket of some sort or a piece of clothing or whatever. And that would be like my gift to myself for taking that time. So P.S. I Love You is about, the idea of, they teach us on airplanes, we both travel a lot. So it's like when you get on the plane, they show you over and over again, put on your oxygen mask first,
Right.
if we lose, air in the plane. And I think it's the same way for leaders. It's like we all get burnt out. Running a business or leading people can be completely exhaustive if we let it. So P.S. I Love You is that idea of putting your oxygen mask on first, taking some time for yourself, getting yourself back healthy, happy, smiling, so that you could do the job that you've been asked to do, which is to lead people. I know that you totally agree with this. At the end of the day, yes, there's financial returns. Yes, there's responsibility operational wise or to customers, etc. But if we don't take care of the people, which is taking care of ourselves first, so we're healthy, happy, prepared to do that job, then we're not gonna hit the target, right?
Yep, for sure.
I love
I want
talking
to
about
tap.
that.
I want to tap into your leadership experience in addition to the book, but I want you to talk a little bit about, we'll call them some of the slippery slopes in leadership. What have you seen people doing that need to be corrected? What can you share with the audience today where they can maybe have an actionable piece of advice when they get done listening to this program?
Yeah, absolutely. And I haven't been asked that question in a little bit, but I love to talk about it because I think it's really important. And interestingly, I'm an executive coach, and so I do a lot of private one-on-one coaches with senior leaders, and people come to me with these issues in private because they don't know what to do with it. And so one of the slippery slopes I talk about in my book is, when I was in my young 20s, I was already in executive positions. I was running fairly large teams. I think my first big team was like 180 people. I had everything it took to be successful in this role. I just wanted to climb, I wanted that, like everybody else did, climb the corporate ladder. And, at that time, the biggest way that you could get seen and heard and have an audience, I guess, of the other executives that could potentially promote you was to go have a cocktail with them during lunch, drink your lunch, then go have a cocktail after work and, just do all of, all these special events. And it was always seemed to have been particularly 30 plus years ago, it was all about, drinking alcohol and having cocktails. So that became a slippery slope for me. I'm coming up on 17 years of choosing a sober lifestyle. In the middle of my corporate career, where I said enough is enough. Like, I don't need to participate in this behavior in order to be respected. And particularly for a young woman at the time, it was one of those things where, I might have, been looked at as an oddball or someone who, just didn't want to go do the fun things with everybody else, or didn't want to, force themselves to be out all night and feel horrible the next day and try to, run your business. But I saw it happen. I did it myself many times and just finally said no one day. So to me, is that slippery slope is believing that there are things such as having to participate in behaviors that really don't add to the workplace. If we can't have a conversation with somebody without having, after hours, parties every night or that kind of thing, then we need to figure something else out, a different type of work. But, it was inherent a number of years ago, particularly around hotels, because, there's restaurants and so on and so forth. And there's a lot of wining and dining and entertaining. And there's still, that's appropriate. Even I, entertain clients, and that's appropriate during certain places. But what I have found also, we are leading 5 generations of workplace now. And the younger generations are just not interested in that. They're so focused on being successful, having their personal time be their personal time, that they don't want anything to do with, let's stay out late having a cocktail, and bond with our coworkers. They want to bond with their coworkers at work. They want to bond with them by hanging out and having lunch, or just talking about things they have in common, and then go home to their families and their homes and what have you afterwards. So it's really interesting because Gen Z in particular is just, I've talked to a lot of them that have said, we just don't want alcohol to be what workplace is about. If I want to go have a cocktail with a friend, I'll go do that later, but it doesn't have to be connected to work. So yeah. So that's one of the slippery slopes. There are dozens. That just happened to be one of my big ones that I get to talk to clients about that today, because it's still kind of the unspoken thing. And I'm like, yeah, it's okay. I'll talk about it because I want to help people.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's a great message. And thank you for sharing your story with us. That takes a lot of courage, and we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Traycee, unfortunately, we're getting to the end of the program here. So I've got to ask you just to tell the audience how they can contact you. They want to learn more about you, work with you, and where they can get the book.
Wow. Thank you. And that went by so fast.
I know, right?
I love talking to you, Dave. So anybody can get in touch with me, talkwithtracee.com, and it's talkwith, TRAYCEE.com. You can book a 30-minute free appointment, and you can ask me anything, and you have 30 minutes free coaching with a lot of experience behind me, or go to Traycee at buleadership.com, and you'll find some things. You can buy my book, you can find some stuff about me, book some time with me, look at the packages that I do. But yeah, Traycee, TRAYCEE. I know that makes it hard, but that is my name. So
Got
Traycee,
it. And you'll see that in the show notes. So
yeah.
all good.
Okay. So yeah,
Traycee,
reach out.
Thank you so much for taking some time to visit with us today on Behind the Numbers. We really appreciate it.
And thank you. And I'm so behind everything that you do, and can't wait to finish reading your book too, Dave. Thanks.
No, thank you for that. Appreciate that. Today we've been talking with Traycee Mayer. My name is Dave Bookbinder. I'm known for being a business valuation expert. And if you've enjoyed what you've heard here today, please hit the share button. Tell somebody about this show. We're listened to in more than 100 countries, but there's still a few people out there who haven't heard of us yet. So please spread the word. That's all we have for today, gang. We will see you next time on Behind the Numbers. Take care.